A surprising move by Disney for the holiday season. Disney's getting ready to lose more cast members, and have they silently started cracking down on ticket scalpers? All this coming up next on Fresh Baked. Hi guys, David here with Fresh Baked, and we've got a couple of news stories that have been going around that we want to talk to you guys about, and we're going to start with some kind of surprising news coming from Disney regarding Merriest Nights. TLDR, it's not going to happen this year. Surprising that over the past few years, they have been expanding their after-hours events, growing. They've been adding more every year. For a while, it was just the Halloween party at Disneyland, which eventually evolved into Oogie Boogie Nights. But then they added, Star Wars night. There was an 80s night, a 90s night. And then since the parks reopened, we've seen things like Sweethearts Night, Villains Night, a grad night reunion after-hours party, and of course, Merriest Nights. Last year was the first night we've ever had at a paid after-hours hard ticket event for Christmas. First year last year, and it turns out this was the last year they're doing it. Now, I said earlier that this was kind of a surprising move for me because it felt like to me that these after-hours parties were just, cash machines. It allowed Disney to essentially double up on ticket prices. You could sell a full-day ticket for full price to guests, but then kick them out at 6 p.m. and bring in a whole nother batch of ticket-paying guests who are paying actually more than a regular ticket for that after-hours party. I mean, that sounds like a win for Disney financially. On the books, lots of extra revenue. But then we also kind of saw this coming a little earlier. Recently, we've been asked often, David, have you heard anything about Merriest Nights, when they're going to announce the calendar for Merriest Nights? And so I looked into that, and I looked back at, it is now more than a week, or it had been more than a week since they had announced it the same time last year. So the fact that there was silence, normally they do things on the same schedule, the fact that there was silence from Disney suggested maybe it wasn't going to happen. And they still actually haven't said anything. I have no doubt, though, that this is the case. This was being reported by Scott Gustin, very trustworthy, I believe him. So the big question, of course, is why? If it's such a cash machine, why are they not doing it? Was it maybe not profitable? I mean, personally, that seems hard to believe for me. But when you consider that just about every decision that Disney makes these days is about creating revenue and all that, it does make it a little bit more interesting. There's some other factor? Are they, as I mentioned, less profitable than I assumed they would be? I mean, sure, they have additional expenses on top of regular operating expenses, additional entertainment, new character costumes, actors are needed, new photo ops, new food. Now, speaking of which, I remember this from last year. The food was average at best for Merriest Nights, and what they did have was very hard to get. Everything was being, there was a long line to get into some of these places. Mobile order was for hours in advance. It was difficult to get the themed food for Merriest Nights. And the entertainment wasn't great either, or at least the general reception of the entertainment. I personally loved it. I liked that kind of thing, but there was hardly anybody watching the Victorian Carolers over at Town Square or the band playing in Fantasyland. I enjoyed both of those shows, but they were not well attended on the nights that we were there. The Muppet thing was pretty well attended, and I personally loved that as well. But then I love the Muppets, and it was kind of a singular thing that we probably won't ever see again. I should also add that the big nighttime show, the Christmas Fantasy Parade, is the same parade that guests can see for free on a regular Disneyland visit, which we're going to get back to that in a second. But certainly it can be said that this event, Merriest Nights, was no worse than some of the other events that would, require them to cancel it. It wasn't worse than Sweethearts Night. I mean, I had a good time at Merriest Nights. Overpriced, I would say that for sure. But I would have done it again if they did it this year, mostly because I like to do things that I can't do on a regular park visit. And that's the only way you can do that sort of thing, is at an after-hours party. Now, having said that, I have been having second thoughts about doing some of these events again next year. I already skipped the grad night. I didn't go to that event at all. I probably won't do Sweethearts Night again if they do it. Villains Night, Star Wars Night, I don't know. Those were pretty cool. But I'm at least thinking about it. It's not a slam dunk, mostly because of the price versus what you're getting for that event. It's limited, just a few hours. You can't do everything. It's hard to get. Sometimes it's just hard to get your value out of your night. Which brings me to the very first thought that I had when I heard this news. Merriest Nights was profitable, yes, but it was profitable enough to overcome some of the other backlash that Disney was getting about the event, to overcome the complaints that Disney was invariably getting from regular park visitors, from guests who paid full price to go to Disneyland on a day of Merriest Nights, and then were told they had to go home at 6 o'clock. Yes, Disney tells you up front that if you're buying a ticket for a Merriest Nights date, that the park is going to be closing at 6. They tell you up front, but I am sure that there is a decent percentage of guests who aren't really paying attention, who just kind of power through the whole purchasing process without even realizing or noticing that you're getting, you have to leave the park early. You can't stay all night. Imagine a family from Colorado purchasing their tickets, making reservations 4 months in advance for a couple of days at Disneyland during the Christmas season. That is a big deal. People want to go just to experience the Christmas season. It's not about Disneyland per se, although it is, but it's also about Disneyland during Christmas. And when that family from Colorado gets there, they can't see the holiday parade. They can't see the holiday fireworks. Heck, they probably have very little opportunity to even see the park at night with the holiday lights on. Now, it was just 5 nights total. That's all they did. They did 5 nights of this event, which was not a lot, but I definitely think it didn't go over very well for any of the guests who paid full price for one of those visits. Ironically, the guests that this would have been okay with, the guests that probably wouldn't have had too much of a problem with it, are the annual pass holders. Now, having said all of that, it's interesting because Walt Disney World has been doing a Christmas party, a paid hard ticket event at Magic Kingdom for years. And I believe they are again this year, so it makes me ask, what's the difference between Walt Disney World and Disneyland? I don't know. So with Merriest Nights out this year, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are relieved, regular ticket holders, and I personally don't have a problem with it. I'm okay with them not doing the event this year. I do think that regular paying guests deserve to see the park in its full holiday splendor. Oh, and then one other thing with regards to the story, it was announced at the same time that the holiday season would start on November 11th, which is the same time as last year. But it makes me wonder if they can do it, how they're going to do it, considering it took them forever to put up the Halloween decorations this year. They started early, but took longer to get it to that point. It took them, I would say another week to get all the Halloween decorations up this year. They started earlier this year, and they were all but done a couple days ahead of the official start date of the Halloween season. Now, the reason why we had theorized in a previous construction update that the reason why they did this was because they were trying to do the transformation with a smaller crew, with a smaller number of cast to do that transformation. So they had to start earlier and then spread it out a little bit more over time. They wound up getting it done on time, actually early. I think the only thing that was remaining on, as we approached the actual start of the Halloween season was the actual pumpkin at Town Square. But they can't really do that for the Christmas season. There's a hard date, November 1st. They cannot start any sooner than, the night of October 31st or the morning of November 1st. They can't start any sooner than that. Last year, our first signs of the holiday season, the first bits of decorations, etc., the stuff in the stores and in the windows was November 7th. Understanding that, I'll be watching very closely this year as a part of the operations that I'm very interested in. It makes me very curious. Will we be seeing Christmas decorations before or after that November 7th date? It's going to tell us a little bit. It's going to tell me. I'm going to have fun with it, trying to figure out if they're ahead of schedule, if they're starting early, or if they're behind schedule or starting late. And the reason why I'm curious about this, apart from just being, curiosity, is that on October 2nd, Disney has a new attendance policy taking effect. And the new attendance policy is going to be more restrictive than the old one. And the expectation is, due to this new policy, they are going to be losing more cast. They're either going to have to let more cast go because they are getting too many strikes on their attendance record, or cast are just going to quit because they don't like the policy. In fact, it's already happening. It's already started. And Disney knows this. Disney is expecting this as well. They have been airing major ads on primetime television, even on non-Disney networks. Ads during football games on NBC and Fox. These are major ads. And they're recruitment ads. They're asking. It's a recruiting ad for more cast. And that's why I'll be watching on November 1st to see how that's going. Will they stick with the Spartan crew? Will they even have enough crew? Or will this push for more cast happen, get them ready in time for the holiday season? Mind you, if they're recruiting these people now, I guess they could be ready by November 1st, be trained and operational by then. And by the way, can I just say, as we close this particular segment, can I just say I cannot believe I'm sitting here talking to you about the holiday season as though it's right around the holiday season is right around the corner. I've been on this rock for more than 50 years, and it surprises me every single year how quickly time goes by. I cannot believe that we're back. We're back. The Christmas season is right around the corner again. It's right here. It's going to happen in just a few months this year. This year is the year I'm going to do my Christmas shopping early, on time. This year, mark my words, it's going to happen. Okay, we talked about the after-hours parties earlier. One of those is Oogie Boogie Bash, which is happening right now at Disney's California Adventure. Tickets for this event went on sale back at the end of June, and they sold out in 5 days. Understandable. It's a very popular event. Lots of demand, very limited supply. Except in 2021, last year, it took 150 days, not 5 days, but 150 days to sell out all those tickets. So when I heard that they had sold out all those tickets in just 5 days, I was astonished, and I was curious. Why? What happened? I asked around, and the prevailing response that I got was that it was due to scalpers. Third-party resellers bought up a bunch of ticket inventory back at the end of June and then are reselling them on sites like StubHub. And now it appears that that is exactly what happened, that the tickets sold out too quickly because of scalpers, because Disney apparently is doing something about it. WDW News Today reported a small little story about a person in an Oogie Boogie Facebook group who reported that their Oogie Boogie tickets were canceled and refunded by Disney. This gets bought 7 tickets total, but resold 4 of them. Per the story from WDW News Today, Disney apparently discovered this, and they canceled all of them. Not just the remaining tickets, but the ones that were resold as well, canceled and refunded. Now, as for the tickets that were resold, I don't know who Disney refunded. I assume they refunded the people who originally bought the tickets. I don't know what happened to the party that bought those resold tickets. I'm not sure. I don't know if they're getting a refund. And per the story, it sounds like some of those resellers who were Magic Key holders have had their Magic Keys revoked, which I guess is understandable. Reselling tickets is against terms of service. Now, so far, this is all I've been able to learn, and the story is secondhand. It's coming from somebody who emailed WDW News Today and told them about what's happening on the Facebook group. So we can't really say it's a definitive situation, and Disney isn't going to comment about this publicly either. But having said that, I have no reason to believe or to think that this isn't true. We've seen and heard of Disney doing similar things for merchandise resellers in the past, going so far as to revoke some resellers' Magic Keys. But having said that, the reselling situation is still a situation. It's still ongoing. They haven't solved that problem. You still see popcorn buckets and limited edition merch being sold on eBay. I've watched people walk out with just, armfuls of lightsabers and other things. People are still stocking up and reselling this stuff. So either Disney is simply not able to completely eradicate the situation, or they have lost their vigor for the fight. Or, thirdly, do they even really want to stop it? Sold merchandise is sold merchandise as far as I can tell, right? Does Disney really care who's buying it as long as somebody's buying it? And not to mention the fact that these resellers actually feed the hype machine that Disney is, I would in favor of. By doing this, they create more scarcity. But I'm not sure if that applies in this case for Oogie Boogie tickets. Now, by the way, this is a different situation. It's difficult to compare a ticket to get into Disneyland with merchandise or a popcorn bucket. And Disney has been doing this very quietly. It has not been public at all. This is, and I don't think they're going to. So the fact that they're doing it quietly, if they are, suggests to me that they are interested in doing something about this. By the way, if you want to see the effects of reselling, check out this. This is the listings for Oogie Boogie tickets on StubHub. You can see how much they're being sold for. It seems kind of predatory when you ask me, taking advantage of people simply wanting to go to Oogie Boogie. We see them going for up to $700. Actually, I'm sorry, that's from $700. What do you think about this Oogie Boogie story? Do you think that Disney should get involved? Should they be canceling resold tickets? Or should they simply let the market do what it does? If people are willing to pay, let them. Our guests responsible for paying whatever price they feel comfortable with paying. Our guests responsible for the risk of buying a scalp ticket. And by the way, scalping, that's not a new thing. It's been around for as long as I've been alive, longer than that even. So this is not a new situation. Scalping tickets has been, it's part of our economy. I'm not a fan of it. I don't condone it. I've never bought a scalp ticket before in my life. I don't have a problem necessarily with Disney doing this. It is against their terms of service, and they do have a right to protect the integrity of whatever it is that they're selling. They are just in doing this. I don't know. It's certainly a very divisive issue because, on the one hand, you've got people going in and hoarding tickets and then selling them at predatory prices. On the other hand, you have people paying and are willing to do that. So it goes both ways, I guess. Let us know your thoughts on these stories in the comments below, and then follow us on Instagram at _FreshBaked, on Twitter at FreshBakedDisney, that's fresh with no E, and on TikTok at FreshBakedDisney. And if you like our show and want to show your support, please do consider joining our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/freshbaked. Otherwise, thanks again for watching, everybody. We love you. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. Fresh Baked.